pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Watertown Planning and Zoning Commission. Have a roll call, Kara.
Ray Antonaci.
Here.
Richard Antonetti,
Here.
Ken Demirs.
Here.
Dan DeVito,
Here.
Lou Esposito, Bob Marinero,
Here.
Dave Pope,
Here.
Lou Cavallo, Joe Juva,
Here.
Jack McHugh.
Here.
Okay, since Lou Esposito's not here, I'd like to see Bob Marinero on behalf for Lou Esposito. And since Lou Cavallo's not here, I'd like to see Joe Duva on behalf for Lou Cavallo as full members of the commission tonight. All right, moving along. We have public participation. Does anybody wish to participate or say anything from the public? Is there any public participation? Is there any public participation? No public participation. To move on to executive session, which we are tabling. We're not going to have an executive session. Acceptance of the minutes. Are the minutes prepared?
They have not been reviewed yet.
Okay, we'll table that. Okay,
Can I have a motion, please, to table?
sure. Somebody want to make a motion to table this?
Make a motion. So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We're gonna move the staff report to the end of the meeting, then we will have a chance to discuss it in depth, okay? There is no chairman's report. We have old business number 9, request from Mr. Laflamme for acceptance of a road, which I understand we're not ready to approve yet, so we're gonna table that for now, okay? And the new business, we have Guerrera Construction for earth materials activity, application to stockpile and process 10,000 cubic yards of clean fill and material crushed rock at 371 Platte Road, Watertown. I understand that the inland wetlands has approved that or doesn't have jurisdiction of that question. And this is for the construction of the road. And we have all the information we need here. And the only thing that we're gonna here to do, I'm gonna leave to Mark to explain the situation. I think we might need an erosion control bond. Go ahead, Mark.
Mr. Chairman, this project is in association with the town project for the reconstruction of Guernsey Town Road. The contractor, Guerrera Construction, has identified Carey Shire Farms as a suitable location for both processing material and stockpiling. From my understanding, Carey Shire Farms will take a certain amount of that material and use it in the farm operations. The rest will be processed on the site and transported back to the job for our reuse. We came to that conclusion in terms of being able to approve later today. So I don't have a resolution. But suggest that you could approve it under a site plan, but require a bond for on-site erosion control measures to be set by the engineering department. And the other condition would be adherence to appropriate earth material conditions.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion from any members of the commission to oh, I'm sorry. Are there any questions? Anybody have any questions about this? Do I have a motion for setting a erosion control bond subject to the approval by the Department of Engineering? And what was the second condition?
Adherence to appropriate earth materials conditions.
And adherence to appropriate earth materials conditions?
It's a catch.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, do I hear a motion for approval of this application?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Right. think,
I'm sorry. Somebody has a comment?
Zoom, somebody on the
Richard.
speaker.
Oh, it's Richard. He was approving.
Richard,
Oh, it's
yeah,
approving?
Yes.
all right. All right, this application carries, it's approved. The next item on the agenda is proposed text amendment to add section 55, to add new section 55A 20-30 acre age restricted housing development. What we have to do on this one is set a date for a public hearing. Attorney Pillacy, do you have anything to say?
Just that we're requesting, by the way, Tony and Andy are here, if there's any questions.
sorry, can you please,
Franklin Pillacy on behalf of the applicant, Tony, a principal, Andy, engineering is here in support of the application, but if there are any questions, we'll be happy to answer them, but we're seeking a public hearing to be scheduled for the next meeting date.
Okay, simple enough. I think the next date for a public hearing is October 4th. Do I have a motion to schedule a public hearing for October 4th?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I'm gonna abstain.
All opposed? Nay?
I'm sorry, who abstained?
Ken Demers.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure if the applicant wanted, they had briefed us to make a brief presentation so that you were a little bit familiar with the project, with the understanding that it is a public hearing has been set.
Right.
That's at your
Well, we can
Whim.
certainly hear the applicant. Please go forward. We have his attorney here. Does he have yes, would the applicant like to speak?
Well, I'll start off. The existing regulations provide for this type of housing in two different area requirements. So we're seeking to do the exact same type of housing within a 20 to 30 acre parcel, which is not provided for under existing regulations. So we're sticking with what you have already, but only allowing for it to occur in a lot or parcel within a 20 to 30 acre size. That's the only change.
Yes, as I see from you submitted a letter on this, Attorney Pillacy, and it has two minor. Well, first of all, we don't have anything for this size property, so we're setting something up for this size property.
Correct.
As I understand it, this is is this the Lovely property? Or no?
Not yet,
No, okay.
but it's,
All right, not yet.
it's
Okay,
under
I got it.
contract,
All right,
uh,
all right, right.
subject to obtaining the necessary.
Okay.
Again, this is the text change. If this is granted, then they will be required to file a special permit in an application, which will be filed as simultaneous applications following the text change that allows for that type of development.
Okay, we have a public hearing set for October 4th, 2023.
Okay,
We're
thank you.
good. Thank you, thank you. The next application sitting here is a Solely Engineering for WPH Holdings LLC to establish Bunker Hill Road Plan Development District on parcels located on Bunker Hill Road and Newwood Road. Parcel map 158, block 45, lot 118A, map 151, block 45, lot 12, and map 165, block 45, lot 116. Text amendment application requires a public hearing. Staff deems application complete for scheduling a public hearing. Recommended date of public hearing is October 4th, 2023. Would the applicant care to speak on this? Yes, you have to push the button to make the light go on. Please give us your name and
For the record,
yes, sir.
Luke Morrow with Sylvia Engineering,
Okay,
office in Negotiation.
Good.
you got it now.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Luke Morrow, I'm a professional engineer, a professional traffic operations engineer with Solely Engineering in Monroe, Connecticut. In front of you tonight, just a kind of quick introduction of the property on behalf of WPH Holdings LLC. We're looking to establish what we're calling the Bunker Hill Road Planned Development District, or BHRPDD for short. And establish a planned development zone for 3 parcels totaling about 200 acres just south of Bunker Hill Road, to the east of Middlebury Road, and then to the west of Commercial Street, I believe it is. So a little history, I believe the development was approved for multifamily or was at least submitted for an application for multifamily some years ago. Nothing kind of came about or came to fruition for that. So we're working with a new team looking to establish both a multifamily component of about 150 or so units, and then also industrial subdivision as well. So it'll kind of serve as a transition between the single family residential lots to the west and then the industrial that abuts on the east side. So we have, I believe you guys have received the package, but there's a plethora of information, narratives, everything that's required for zone change, text amendment, a set of plans for conceptual master plan approval with some grading, utilities, landscaping design on there. We submitted a preliminary traffic study for everyone's review as well, to kind of at a high level summarize what we intend to what we presume the traffic impacts would be. And as Mark pulled up here, just kind of an overview of what we'll be presenting in detail, hopefully on the October 4th meeting. So Bunker Hill up top, Straits Turnpike all the way on the right side to the east, and then Middlebury Road on the left side. And you can see 4 larger industrial buildings shown kind of in that pink peach color in the middle, and then a residential multifamily use on the top there. And that's at high level what the application entails.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Antonetti.
these are age restricted housing.
No, it would be no age restriction on the housing.
Okay.
Where we are calling for 10% affordable as part of the reg amendment, but other than that, no restriction.
Commissioners, any questions?
Sure, I have a couple. What will be the proposed square footage of the units? I'm sure you're gonna have a variation.
I mean, probably single to 2 bedroom units. It'll be a mix of apartment style. So anywhere between 24 to 36 units per building. So probably in the range of 600 to 1,000 square feet.
So
you know,
they're fairly small.
Yeah, nothing extremely large.
What price point are you thinking?
Not gotten to that level of detail yet.
Okay.
We're trying to get through the process so we can bring this to market, because right now that type of use isn't allowed in the zone.
Right. Okay,
So, yeah.
thank you.
Commissioners, any other? Yeah,
Through the
Kenny?
chair, Luke, I think you mentioned earlier that it was, there was a previous, project that was approved here. I think you said multifamily use, and I'm pretty sure it was age restricted condominiums. Okay.
For Heritage Woods, my apologies.
Right, and these units you're talking about, are these gonna be for rent or for sale?
As I understand it, for sale, I believe,
Okay.
but has not been completely squared away.
Right, because I think the last time you guys were in front of us, it was strictly rentals.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's still, details have still.
Yeah.
Maybe there could be a mix, it could be rent only, it could be for sale only, but.
All right, thank you.
Any other commissioners have a question? Of course, we don't control whether or not it's rental or
Sure.
sale.
No, just.
Yeah, and it'll be, as the market dictates as well, so.
Richard, any questions?
None at all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions from the members of the commission?
I do.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Is there any thought about doing age restricted? As you could see, we're you know, that's what it was before and that's what
Uh,
I think we would be leaning towards?
The intent right now, was not part of our application. However, I can go back and talk to the applicants and see if that's something they would consider, is the request for 100% or a portion of it, I guess specifically. What would the request be for?
Um,
A certain percentage or?
I don't know.
Through the chair, are these, how many units did you?
154?
Right, so I'm assuming these are pretty big buildings with elevators?
Yes, they'd be
Yeah.
3-story, correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it could be age restricted.
So,
Elevator.
it's something, it's worth, hearing the commission, it's something I could certainly bring back to the client. We can
Yeah.
discuss that when we open the hearing, sure.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay.
No further questions. We have a public hearing set. Do I hear a motion to set a public hearing date? I believe we haven't done that for October 4th, 2023.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to bow out of number 11.
Okay. The next one we have is I have a public hearing. Carol, do you have the advertisement that you could read that, the notice? Thank you.
Town of Watertown, hearing legal notice. Planning and zoning district of the town of Watertown, Connecticut, will hold a public hearing on September 2023 on site and special permit for Merit Markowitz for construction of a 6,000 square foot building for construction services with associated outdoor storage located at 0 Pennsylvania Road, map 104, block 91, lot 15B, located in an IR80 zoning district, dating at Watertown, Connecticut, is 24th and 31st day of August 2023, 10-year secretary plan and zoning division.
Okay, for the record, I'd like to note that David Pope has left the meeting because he recuses himself. Okay. Yes, Attorney Pelosi, go for it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission and staff. Franklin Pelosi on behalf of the applicant. As discussed, firstly, the applicant did provide the evidence of notice sent in accordance with Article 10 of their regulations. And secondly, this is a pretty straightforward application for a contractor's yard and related uses on property that's in a proper zone, similar to development in that area. We're not aware of any outstanding issues, and we would be happy to answer any questions. But otherwise, we would respectfully ask that the public hearing be closed and the commission consider approval tonight.
Good. Yeah. All right. Oh, all right. I would see, okay, Jack McHugh as a member of this commission for the purpose of this public hearing on behalf of David Pope. Since David has recused himself, that gives us 5 members, which is a quorum. Important. Thank you. Good point. Okay,
Are there any other questions? It's pretty straightforward application. I believe it's complete. I believe you have a report from the
well,
zoning officer that indicates that it is complete and appropriate to be acted on.
I have that. We have a road that's in excess of 7% grade, but the engineering department recommended approval because of the extreme sloping of the site. So we're gonna obviously need a motion to accept that at a larger grade, which I think is 9.5%. What is it slope? 9.6%. I looked at the map here. We'll have a motion for that. Are there any questions from the members of the commission? Any questions from the public on this application? Yes, sir. Oh, sir, you have to approach and you have to identify yourself.
My name is Gary Martin, and we own land that I believe abuts this property, but I went there looking for a signage of where this is happening, and I could not find anything posted, so I don't know where this property is in as it relates to our property.
We're
Somebody could give
supposed
me
to
that,
have a land use
just so I
application
understand.
signed.
Is it where the Cura property is?
Big sign.
There's a signage on the property that says what?
What's that? And it says.
The Tom Hill property you're talking? I saw the Tom Hill sign, that's all I saw, but it's in two locations on that road, one way up and one way down, so. I could not find a location, but
Has a sign been posted for a land use application for this property?
Yes.
what was that?
Yes, he said, yes, there's a sign.
You're saying there's a piece of there's an announcement on the property that says that that's being developed? I saw nothing. I drove up and down that road 5 times. But if it's there, I'll go look again.
Okay, that was the only question. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, well, it's just, I'd like to know where it is as it relates to the property we own, is all I wanted to know, so I had some idea of what was going on.
Can the applicant tell this gentleman where it is related to his property?
Sure. Show you a picture.
I've been looking all week, so it's just, you show me the Cura property, I'll know exactly where it is.
It's to the right.
On the
To get
same
rid of
time
the
as the
problem
Cura
with the
property.
slope of the road, I think you would build a driveway like that.
I'm sorry about this, just, you know, don't worry about it, if I have to, as long as I know it's right to the, so the.
One second.
Oh. There.
Yeah, that's you, right?
Yeah,
John and Dominic, right?
yeah,
That is,
that's all.
that's open space for the town of Watertown. That's Coachella paving. Right here, the new Coachella
Yeah,
paving.
yeah, I know, I've seen it.
It's right here.
Oh, okay, so it's to the next, okay, thank you, I'm all set.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, you're between. I know exactly. All right, thank you.
Is there any reason why we can't build a road like this to cut down on the slope?
Yeah, sure. Anything you want.
Okay. All right, so do I hear a motion for acceptance of the slope in excess of 7%?
Right, I think, you're gonna make a motion to close the public hearing and then.
Oh, yes, yes, of course, of course.
Big problem.
Any more questions from the commission? I'm sorry.
Sorry.
That's okay. You're fine. Any more questions from the public?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? All opposed? Okay, now I need a motion for acceptance of the road in excess of 7%. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion, Mr.
Do I hear
Chairman.
a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, I need a motion to approve the application. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Do I hear a
Second.
second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the application is approved.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, you can enjoy it. You can stay and enjoy this.
We sled down your road?
We're gonna call it Mount Everest.
Speaking before us.
All right, Mark? You're gonna talk about the accessory dwelling units.
I'm sure, a couple of things. First, Mr. Chair, I've met recently with NVCOG, the regional planning district. and they've offered to, they've done a little bit of reorganization and they have different services. They've enhanced their services to the towns.
Hey, Mark, Mark, let's get the David Pope and Kenny Demers back. Oh, he's got them. Hold, wait till they come back in, okay?
Gotta stop.
It's a heat.
Listen, people adjourn, go out different doors, they'll still be getting there on Tuesday. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. You can.
Sure. So, Mr. Chairman, we met with NVCOG, the regional planning agency, and they've recently reorganized their services to the town. So I got a rundown on what is available to the town. And specifically, we talked about the affordable alternative housing plan that is in production, but we had to put it aside for a while when we lost our capable intern, our last capable intern. So they've suggested that they could help to get that back on track. And so I've sent them a copy of our first draft, and we'll be meeting with them toward the end of September to come up with a plan to move it forward. We have, you've heard this a number of times, but I've just received an email today about our online permitting system, Municity. The company ICC has it about 90% built out. So I believe I'm going to choose some dates for the company to start interacting with staff to view the build out and to make suggestions and get some training. I'm optimistic that we could have this online by the end of the year, which means that as the building department does now, the town would be able to, the land use board, the land use department would be able to accept online permits for zoning permits, as well as for planning and zoning, inland wetlands and ZBA. It's been a very long time coming, and we're looking forward to getting that finalized. In addition, the town has contracted for what they call CRM software, which is another online program that assists the town in taking and tracking a variety of things, but primarily complaint and issue oriented. I believe that they'll be training initially staff in the next few weeks, and that should be online in the next 2 or 3 months as well. The zoning subcommittee for the revision of the regs has been on track so far. Thank you. And we're meeting on Friday to continue working on that so that we could put a draft in front of the commission. Again, the target is by the end of the year. The commission has, and then going to accessory dwelling units, the commission has expressed an interest in moving that forward. As you realize or know, at the end of last year, the commission decided to opt out of the provisions that were instituted or recommended by the state legislature in 21. What I did was to kind of rework the memo that I provided to you back when you opted out. So if you remember the process, the commission opted out of all of the points of accessory dwelling units and kept in essence the current regulations in place. However, that doesn't mean that the commission cannot change and adopt some of those regulations and put them in place. So what I've provided to you is pretty comprehensive, and I won't go into a huge amount of detail, but we would have to adopt a definition, because there's no definition in the zoning regs for an accessory dwelling units, although there are standards. So I just at that point provided you with a couple of examples of definitions, and we could either adopt those or we'll find definitions that suit our needs. I've listed for you what those under limits on ADU requirements, those are current restrictions that limit the use of ADUs. And so these are measures that you could look at these are measures that were adopted as part of the PA 2129. So ADUs are no longer restricted to homeowners or relatives of occupants of the structure. The approval process in a lot of towns requires a public hearing, a special permit. And so there is no longer a requirement to do that. Those could be approved by either site plan or they could be approved on an administrative basis. Regulations are no longer required to have exterior doors on the same front plane as the primary house or to be connected to the primary structure. In other words, they could be detached structures. Nor is there a requirement to have anything more than one parking space. Funny enough, excess parking has been used by municipalities to restrict ADUs by requiring excess parking spaces. There had been, which is very common, a maximum size of ADUs. Typically it was about 700 square feet. That's what was contained in the Watertown zoning regulations. Now that limit has been bumped up to 1,000 square feet, or 30% of the size of the primary structure, whichever is smaller. So they could increase by 300 square feet in size. The construction of the ADU cannot trigger more restrictive lot coverage requirements than that which applies to the primary home. In other words, they can't be greater setbacks than are required for the primary home. No greater height, landscaping, or architectural designs other than what applies to the single family dwelling. So in other words, what they're trying to do is to, by saying that, is to make the ADU fit the size requirements and architectural details that one would ordinarily find for a single family home, let's say in a particular neighborhood. ADUs are not required to be affordable, but municipalities may regulate them may regulate their use as a short-term rental, such as like a B&B, Airbnb. They're not required to have separate utilities. Not be required to be served by separate utilities, but they can share the septic system, but the septic system can't be overly restricted by calling it a community wastewater system, which triggers a significant more restrictions than a ordinary single-family house septic system. I've listed for you the current zoning regulations. As you can, so as I mentioned, right now, the regulations are limit an ADU to 750 square feet. So the size could increase to 1,000 square feet. The new standards would eliminate the provision for direct access to the principal living area of the ADU. So right now you have to have unfettered access between the ADU and the primary living space, which inhibits any kind of privacy between the two units. So that requirement could be eliminated. There has to be certification from the town sanitarian that the sewage disposal system is adequate to serve both dwellings. There'd be no change in that requirement. They talk about, the current regulations talk about no outdoor stairways serving the accessory dwelling unit. And they can't be visible from the two separate doors shall not be permitted on the front facade. Those requirements could be eliminated. Let's see. We mentioned the bedrooms, the parking spaces. There would be a requirement for no more than one parking space for a one-bedroom unit. The ADUs would still meet the minimum requirements and dimensional requirements for the zoning district. So again, there'd be no additional lot area, and the ADU would have to meet the zoning setbacks of the primary dwelling. So they want them to be in character with the single family house, in essence. Accessory dwelling units cannot be permitted by action of the Zoning Board of Appeals. That would not change. And as I mentioned, they should meet all the applicable setbacks and bulk requirements of the single family dwelling. So they're not designed to change the character of the neighborhood. The town has a requirement that the one of the dwelling units be owner occupied at all times. I think this was one of the sticking points for the commission. I think you would prefer, but again, you'll tell me, you would prefer to have either the apartment or the primary dwelling occupied by the owner of the premises. You could, that's up to you. They have eliminated those standards within the guidelines. There was a really outdated request for or an affidavit that was requested that's in the zoning regs that the owner be in residence. We just discussed that. but that there'd be a certification on an annual basis in the town clerk's office by the ZEO. That requirement for any ADUs that are in existence right now, nobody followed. Honestly, that's not followed. It's a fairly onerous requirement. So those restrictions could be eliminated as well. Those are for accessory dwelling units. So distinguishing them from accessory dwellings, which would be a freestanding unit. The biggest change is that right now the current regulations, you have to have a special permit and site plan requirement to have a detached single-family dwelling. And a detached single-family dwelling can only be located on a minimum of 6 acres. Again, those requirements could be eliminated as well. Those really impede detached accessory dwelling units. So in other words, if you had a single-family house and you had a detached garage, let's say they had, and this is fairly common, a bonus space, above the garage, under current regulations, you could not turn that into an accessory dwelling unit because you don't have 6 acres of land. If that provision is eliminated, it would allow ADUs in that scenario in a detached garage under a bonus in a bonus space.
So there would be no minimum acreage requirement, period?
That's correct. That's correct.
This pretty much, as I see it, is if we adopt everything, anybody could have let's eliminate the 6 acre requirement, which is kind of onerous, right? But anybody could do a detached accessory dwelling unit up to 1,000 square feet on any existing single-family lot, as long as it complied with the setbacks and all the other zoning requirements. And you essentially created 2 living units on that property. Basically, that's how I see it. I mean,
Correct.
and neither one has to be owner occupied.
And I'm sorry?
That's crazy. Okay, all right, so we have the option of accepting all of that, which we have not, but we have to create our own ADUs. Okay.
Correct.
And we have a deadline date.
Correct.
What's the deadline date?
I'm just pointing these out so you can consider and almost pick and choose which ones you would,
We gotta
know,
kind
like-
of go down the list, right? The
Yeah.
menu, right?
yeah,
Okay,
yep,
all right.
correct. And then a couple of more points. There was also a separating distance of 100 feet from if you had the 6 acres, the accessory ADU had to be greater than 100 feet from the main dwelling. That provision could be eliminated, so it could be closer than 100 feet to the main dwelling. Again, you'd still have the health department certification that the sewage disposal system is adequate to serve both dwellings.
Is there any way that we could combine our requirement for affordable housing with our approval of an ADU? So that anybody who wanted to do an ADU had to we could insist that we could make it require that it becomes affordable. There's only going to be 1,000 square feet, so that's the maximum. So it's likely to be a more likely candidate to be in affordable housing to meet our 10% requirement.
You could not exclusively restrict it as affordable housing. It could be occupied by someone over 55. There's no doubt about that. But you couldn't make
Well, I'm
that a
not saying it
specific.
has nothing to do with over 55. It's just within the affordable category, because we're at what 4-point-something% right now.
Oh, okay,
See what I mean?
correct.
Kind of merge those two things.
So you guys tell me what it is that, what provisions you'd like to discuss and shape. And then I can come back with a proposal for you.
Go ahead.
I think that's 6 acres. Just keep eliminating everything.
Of course, yeah, right. It's not gonna, you're not gonna be able to do a detached, separate
Nobody's got.
accessory dwelling. Nobody's got 6 acres.
That's all being limited. Yes, it should be.
We're
But
gonna- Yeah,
I think the house on Ridgeway, they had a detached two-car garage, oversized, they had a big lot.
Yeah, as long
And
as
that
that
all
garage-
has that.
Right.
That would be perfect, that would have been a perfect example,
right.
and they do.
Well, we could also, any single family house on a regular subdivision.
Yeah.
Could have an accessory dwelling unit of 1,000 square feet or less, which is a livable, building, and, and the relatives don't have to live in it. And the house doesn't have to be owner occupied, so it effectively takes any investment single family house and allows them to have 2 rental properties on that piece.
Are you saying you're for that?
No, I'm just explaining what this
Oh, okay. Yeah, no,
potentially is.
Okay.
I'm not advocating anything. I'm just trying to get the gist of what we're looking at here. So everybody's clear on it.
I think this could be disastrous.
Okay. Well, we need to figure it out. We need to go one thing at a time.
Right. This is big in California where they don't have enough, they have more people than housing. I mean, I don't see why we need this. I just think, you could put a trailer behind somebody's house. 1,000 square foot double wide. And how's that, what's the aesthetics of the accessory dwelling gonna look?
Yeah, but then we don't have standards.
Didn't you just say it has to be in the character of the primary home? Yeah.
Yes, and you can set general architectural standards so that it meets the standards of the single family zone to try to prevent that from happening.
Can we also set where it's located on the lot?
Well, it would have to be, it would set within the zoning setbacks.
I mean,
So-
yeah, well, could it be right in front of the house?
Sorry.
It could be right in front of the house, right?
If it
Unless
meets the zone-
unless
if it
we-
meets
unless
the
we-
setback.
Well, not necessarily, because most houses are set at the front setback, so.
Yeah, if it's a well set back house, they could build an ADU in front as long as it met the setbacks in that zone.
Yes.
Right, so.
We just still have to respect the front setbacks that
Right,
currently
right,
exist.
But it's,
If
Just want-
if they could do that, we can't restrict that.
Correct.
We-
It is restricted to it.
If it meets all the criteria of, as far as the setbacks, you could put it anywhere in your property that meets the criteria.
Without, okay, I think again, you could, as long as you make some dimensional requirements, I think you could address points like that.
we're pretty free to do most of these things with subject to those limits, right? We can't restrict it to homeowners or relatives. Doesn't require a public hearing. They don't have to correct the nonconformity. They don't have to have an exterior door or be connected to the primary structure or have more than one parking space. We have to allow 1,000 square feet is the maximum. It can't trigger more restrictive lot coverage. It's not required to be affordable. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. I glanced by that earlier, sorry. We can regulate the use of ADUs as short-term rentals. I can see these things as Airbnbs or VRBOs. Okay, and it's not be, so as long as we don't do any of those things, we can set any regulations we want, right? Am I correct?
Within the bounds that you've mentioned, yes.
All right, so we have pretty broad discretion as to doing this. Have any suggestions on how we go about doing this? Do you want to do a subcommittee for recommendations or, I know you're interested in it, Kenny.
Yeah.
Who would like to be, who would like to be on a subcommittee to review these and come up with some suggestions to the commission as to how we're gonna do this? One,
do it.
2, 3. Okay, great. We got Danny, Kenny, and David. All right, and we have a subcommittee that's gonna meet and they'll let them go on their own, set your own time to meet, go over these things and come up with a set of what do you think would be workable? Okay?
Okay, fair enough.
Mark, just a quick question. I like what I see here, except for a couple little things, really. The state regulations that we decided not to adopt. Did they talk, what did they mention about anything being owner occupied?
They, so typically it's common to have that restriction. And Watertown has that restriction, that the owner has to live either in the ADU or in the primary dwelling.
Right,
So, the state has lifted that
really?
that restriction is no longer needs to be applied.
Wow.
And I think that was honestly one of the primary reasons why I think the commission opted out, because you had, I think, some issues with that. But if you want to adopt that, since you opted out of the regulations, you're free to insert back in, or in this case, it would remain, maybe with some modifications, I'm not sure.
Right, because it's a scary thought that if your neighbor has an in-law apartment and they're moving to Florida in 2 years, they're gonna turn that into a multifamily house and rent both units out. That's,
Right, I think
It's
that
absurd.
was, again, that was, I think, the commission's concern back in December, and I think that's one of the primary reasons why you decided to opt
We have
out.
a ton of basement in-law apartments in town.
ton.
No, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really don't have a problem with in-house apartments for, your parents, but I do have a problem with having a single family house and then putting up in 1,000 square foot building right next to your house.
And
being able to
Rent and
You
being
have,
able to rent
you have a problem with the detached,
detached.
right? Do you have a problem with the in-law apartment converting? Well, we can't do anything about
Well, it
that.
wouldn't be an in-law apartment anymore. It would
Well,
be,
yeah, I know, but if somebody
accessory
buys
dwelling.
that suggestion though, that a house a single family house with an in-law apartment with a walkout, a basement and a kitchen that we have a lot of. If it's sold to an investor, they actually have 2 units
Two
to rent.
units to
Yeah,
rent.
we can't control that. I
Well,
don't
that's-
see any way to control
why
that.
can't
Is
you
there any way
use-
to control that?
Well, yeah, you control it by making the person who's the homeowner have to occupy the main dwelling.
We can't do that.
Why?
It's ADU regulations do not, say right here.
I think
ADUs are not restricted to homeowners or relatives of occupant of primary structure.
we opted out of that.
Right,
We
you
could
opted
do
out of
whatever we
that,
want.
So
so
this is limits on ADU requirements. This is one of the things we can't do.
you could retain that, you could
Yeah, you
retain
could
that.
retain that.
We can't.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So let me just, why don't we just end this here? We have a subcommittee formed. They're gonna come up with recommendations, and then once they come up with recommendations that we all approve of, then we can set our guidelines.
Beautiful.
Correct,
Right, I mean, we could beat this horse all night.
yeah,
All right, you're right.
this is
Okay.
just to start the conversation.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, we're good.
Chuck.
Next meeting date is there?
Okay, do I hear a motion to,
Any communication about this?
communication and bills, excuse me, I'm sorry. Are there any communication and bills that we need to discuss at this point? All right, next meeting date is October 4th, 2023. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Mr. Chairman.
all approved? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
You
What did I
went
do
to,
wrong?
he went to the